Springdale School Board meeting to order. Thank you all for being here tonight. We appreciate it. We're going to start with our student rep from Archer Learning Center, Glory Ann Abon. If you would please come to the podium. She's going to lead us in the pledge and then tell us a little bit about herself. So if you'd stay in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Somebody on the stool. Well, thank you for being here. If you would like to just tell us a little bit about yourself and where you came from and where you're headed and go from there.
I am from Archer Learning Center. I am a senior. What I want to do after school, I want to become a cosmetologist. I want to go to school for it and maybe own my own business.
Nice, very cool. Tell us about the schools that you've progressed through in Springdale. What schools have you gone to?
I went to Harp Elementary, to Sonora Middle School, to Lakeside Junior High School, to Springdale High School, and now I'm in Archer Learning Center.
Lord, you guys have any questions for Ms. Abon?
Do you have a favorite teacher or a favorite class at Archer?
I do have a favorite class. It's English 12, Mr. Houston. That's my favorite class. He's, He gives me individual support. He helps me very much, and he's always there for me.
Very awesome. Anybody else? Well, thank you so much for being here and getting our meeting started. Are you 12th grade?
Yes, I am.
So graduating here in a few months, which is exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. That brings us to our agenda for tonight. Do we have any changes to that, Dr. Cleveland?
No, sir.
Board, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Hudson and a second by Mrs. Cook to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I will pass it over to Dr. Cleveland for our celebrations and reports.
Okay, first up we have Mr. Trent Jones. He's going to talk about the showcase of the arts in East Nile.
Good evening, Dr. Cleveland, Leanne, School Board. We have a wonderful event coming up on Thursday, April 2nd in downtown Springdale. It's called the Showcase of the Arts. Our East program at J.O. Kelly made you a poster there for you guys to have that was made by the students at J.O. Kelly. Very proud to tell you that the great work from Holly Hamblin, yeah, that looks great. The great work from Holly Hamblin, who's an art lead teacher at Southwest, and Helen Tyson. She has done a wonderful job with Amanda Craddock and organizing student art. And that art will be showcased at The Medium. It will be showcased at Manos on Emma, which is right next to the taco place there. Also, Abigail Farrell from J.O. Kelly Middle School has organized the East programs, and they're going to showcase booths and service learnings down at Luther George Park. At 6:30, we will have a free live concert from the Woodbox Heroes, which features 5-time Musician of the Year in the country music world, Janae Fleener, who's a graduate of Springdale High School. And I also learned, on a side note, if anybody's curious about this, the banjo player for the Woodbox Heroes is the banjo player for Mumford & Sons, who will be here in June. So that's kind of neat that they'll be here celebrating with our students, and they're going to look at the student art and the service projects. So that's 5 to 8 p.m. It's drop in, of course. 5 to 8 p.m. at the Medium, Manos, and Luther George Park. Woodbox Heroes plays at 6:30. So we would love for you all to come to our beautiful downtown, celebrate our students, celebrate art in East and service learning, and enjoy a concert from the Woodbox Heroes.
Very cool.
Thank you. Hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Now we get to celebrate some really good things happening, Mr. Donnell.
Okay, if I could have the HARP students come on up, and Mrs. Harberger. Tonight I want to take a moment to celebrate the students at Harp Elementary for the proud home of the Hawks. You're supposed to do something right there. Nothing? However, before I do this, I'd like for you to see some honorable mentions on the board here from some other schools. Is that little cursive thing there? These are some other schools that also participated. You can see there from Young. There's one from the high school at Castle there, paw print, some other things, a star at Shaw. And then the winning one were these students here. Students at Harp recently participated in the Construction Canned Food Drive contest, and I'm happy to say they won it. Yeah. This contest was not only about building the best construction model, it was also about planting seeds of generosity in our students, helping them understand that even at a young age, they too can make a difference in the lives of others. These students came together and collected canned goods, knowing that their efforts would directly help the other students and families in our district. This truly embodies the spirit of kids giving back to kids. To recognize their efforts, these students will receive a construction trophy right here. We spent some time making sure that that was representative. It's kind of the Super Bowl of trophies right here, okay? So they'll get this trophy that they get to keep for a year. And if you'll see on the side, this first one right here, I'm going to show this to the students, it says Harp Elementary right there, 25, 26. So they'll get to keep this for a year in bragging rights. And then they're going to be Mr. and Mrs. Popular in the school because on a food day, right, on a scheduled food day, they're going to get to give their whole entire school a pizza party, which is really awesome. Yeah, it's one small way for us to say thank you for their big hearts and commitment to serving others. So please please join me in congratulating these Harp Elementary students for their outstanding work.
I'm Janet Hornberger. I'm the manager of the Treehouse Pantry, and I just want to say how much we enjoyed visiting all of the schools as we met with them and heard their presentations and the things that they came up with. Their ingenuity and creativity was amazing, and their presentation was fabulous. It was a hard decision, but in the end, we chose HARP, and we're glad that we did. Everybody together collected 4,000 cans, which equates to about 6,000 pounds of food that will go directly to our families in our district.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Hang on just a second. Let me fix this for you.
Thank you.
Watch your toes.
Thank you.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Alan Ingram, and I am a 5th grader at Harp Elementary. So at Harp, we got to participate in the canned food drive, and basically that's just where students had the choice to bring in cans. And we also have the house system at Harp, so every student that brought in cans got to put their cans in their house's box. So every day, a student from a 5th grader at Harp would come down and count the total of cans. And at the very end of the canned food drive, we counted all the cans, and we found our winning house, which was Isabindi, the greenhouse. And then we got to build this amazing sculpture out of the cans. And this idea was brought to us by Miss Purdue, a 4th grade teacher at Harp, which was pretty cool. And since we won that, we get to have a pizza party, which I think we all think is pretty cool. So, thank you. I'm Alan Ingram.
I'm Romina Zarate.
I'm Sloan Underdown.
I'm Omar Lakal. I'm Alden Bond. I'm Leanna Jennings. I'm Itzel Morris. And I'm Spencer Oris.
Thank you, parents, for bringing them and all you do.
Thank you, guys.
Great job.
Good job.
Love
We
the
didn't get
trophies.
jackets.
I know, do we get a jacket next time?
We didn't get jackets.
Next, I'm thrilled to recognize a truly exceptional accomplishment from Don Tyson School of Innovation. If I could have the directors come on up. And principal, come on up. Our middle school symphonic band led by John Van Zant and advanced treble choir led by Cindy Key were both selected to perform at the Arkansas All-State Music Conference as the 8EE Honor Band and the Junior High Honor Band respectively. It's extremely rare for two groups from the same school to receive invitations to the All-State Music Conference. As a matter of fact, after some research, I discovered this has only happened one other time in the history of the All-State Conference. This achievement is not just a reflection of the students' incredible talent and dedication, but also a true testament to the outstanding musical instruction and guidance happening every day at DTSY. Please join me in congratulating the DTSY Middle School Symphonic Band and Advanced Treble Choir for this remarkable honor and for thanking their directors for cultivating such an extraordinary musical achievement in our district.
Thank you all very much for the chance to speak with you today about performing as the 8EE Honor Band for 2026. The students in our middle school symphonic band worked tirelessly to prepare 4 challenging pieces, and we're extremely proud of all that they accomplished. The group consists of 10 7th graders and 50 8th graders who are in their 2nd and 3rd years of playing, respectively. About a year ago, we submitted recordings of the group playing 2 pieces from their concert assessment, and a panel of judges selected 1 8 single E and 1 8 double E group to perform based on blind audition. So I just want to thank the people who made the performance possible, to Dr. Cleveland and the Springdale School Board, to Mr. Donnell, as well as our DTSY administrators, Amy Harrison, Tom Doppy, Chelsea Perry, Shay Hopper, and Michael Tapey, and our incredible team of music teachers at SOI, Jessica George, Cindy Key, Manchusa Longsangrung, Justin Hazard, and particularly head band director Jeff Key, who worked tirelessly to make sure that our students' performance was the best that it can be. Thank you very much.
Well, I am Cindy Key, and this is my 29th year of teaching, so this has kind of been a bucket list thing for us to do. I think John said a lot about the process of how we get picked, but each year a junior high, a senior high choir, and a college choir get picked to be the honor choir. So we were honored to be, only in our 8th year at Don Tyson, to be picked to be an honor choir for the state. We are very fortunate to have a supporting team of administrators, and I just want to say thank you to all of you for supporting us, because this is something the students will never forget. So we really enjoy this experience. Thank you.
And the old guy will wind it up. It's truly hard to believe that it's been 8 years since we started the music program at DTSOI, and it's an honor to work with this group of music educators and administrators as well. Having 2 honor groups perform at the Arkansas All-State Conference was one of the greatest accomplishments of any music program I've been a part of in my 29 years of teaching in 4 different school districts. In fact, as Mr. Donnell said, it's only happened in one other time in history. We believe our students are achieving these great things because of opportunities that you, as a school board, and our administration have made possible. Your support has allowed our students to grow, excel, experience opportunities that will impact them for the rest of their lives. Thank you, board members, Dr. Cleveland, Mr. Donnell, and Ms. Harrison, for believing in the vision for Don Tyson School of Innovation and for supporting our music programs at DTSOI.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
That's so exciting.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job.
They work tirelessly with those kids over there. They do an amazing job.
Okay, and the last piece that I have tonight is, I'm pretty excited about, we have our first Live, Work, and Thrive Job and Housing Fair this Saturday, March 14th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Springdale Public Schools Professional Development Center. And I want to give it, before I go any further, I want to give a big shout out to Trent Jones and for Dr. Shay Hopper for helping organize this event. They've done a great job. This event is open to everyone, and it will serve as a one-stop shop for opportunity for individuals to explore career opportunities with Springdale Public Schools while also connecting with local housing providers and community partners. We're excited to say that McDonald's will be providing breakfast for our staff. The Treehouse Pantry will be offering snacks and drinks for the job fair participants, and attendees will have a chance to win all kinds of fun prizes. And there will be an ACE the Interview Tips and Tricks that is going to be led by Dr. Flanagan. So he's going to be in a room, and anybody that wants some advice on how to interview better, he'll be doing that. In addition, local real estate professionals will be available to answer housing questions, and computers will be on site for anyone who wants to do an application right there on site. We're excited to showcase the many opportunities. Springdale is a great place to be, it's a great place to live, it's a great place to work. We're excited to help other people discover why this is such a wonderful place to live, work, and thrive in. Any questions about that? Okay, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Good evening, Dr. Cleveland and Board. We have some exciting celebrations to share with you this evening. At this time, I want to invite Miss Shelby Rains to the podium. She is the GT facilitator at Sonora Elementary, Westwood, and Via. And she recently received the 2026 Agate Curriculum Award, which was given for designing rigorous differentiated curriculum for advanced learners. And not only does she do that, but she coaches and supports the teachers in the schools where she works so that they know how to better extend lessons. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Rains to talk about her award.
Hello. This curriculum was based on this series of books by Yamada and Beeson. It's what do you do with an idea, what do you do with a problem, and what do you do with a chance. And these are all abstract nouns that in the book are made physical and concrete through metaphor. So in idea, the idea is this little egg with a crown, and the problem is a storm. And so my students, I've done this with 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students, and they explored an abstract noun, made it concrete, and then wrote a story about it following the same format that this series follows. And I just wanted to read you guys a little bit of one that a 4th grader made last year. One day, progress came to me. I don't know how. It was small, a cream-colored Siamese cat. But what do I do with progress, I thought. It followed me everywhere, but I didn't want it. I was scared it would make things change, and I liked things how they were. And I didn't like the idea of things changing with progress. So I left. But it kept following me, and I was curious about it, so I faced it. All of a sudden, wings sprouted on each side of its back, and it was magical. I got on, it took me places I thought I could never go, and potential that brought me new ideas. And with those ideas came new chances. I loved it. I realized things did change for the better. So what can you do with progress? You risk it all, because with progress comes change, and change can be the start of something magical. So, a 4th grader. Isn't that incredible? Awesome. So this was the curriculum. It was very exciting to go, and I appreciate all of your support. I also, of course, appreciate Dr. Plumley and all of her support, who helps facilitate that professional development relationship that we have with Agate that is so, so important for building those skills, especially for extension and differentiation in the classroom as well. So I just wanted to say thank you so much.
Congratulations.
I now want to recognize Ms. Leanne Johnson and her students from Hunt Elementary for earning 1st place in the stock market game. So if Ms. Johnson and her students would come to the podium.
These are my 4th graders, and they won 1st place in the fall stock market game against students in middle school and elementary. So we even beat some other schools that were kind of mad at us. But they did a great job. They became first place. We got to go to Little Rock for a luncheon at the Clinton Museum, and they received this trophy award. And they were so excited. They had great ideas and great stocks. Do you want to share anything with them about what you purchased or what you learned? Say your name.
My name is Davis Owen.
And you learned?
I learned a lot about the stock market and how you can use stocks. My name is Stockton Coleman, and I learned that you can trade and share stocks with other companies, and you can make a lot of money from it.
Or lose. Yeah, not the lose part.
My name is Luke Hackney, and in the stock market game, I've learned that when you buy good stocks, sometimes they will go down rapidly. So I guess just buy the normal stocks that don't go down as much.
Glad you learned that.
Good advice.
My name is Liam Williams, and I learned that, my favorite stock was Oracle.
Oracle?
Yeah.
Oracle. That's the one that did the best for them. What? ORCL. That did the best with their stock purchases. That was their best purchase.
So Oracle was the best?
Yes.
What was the second one?
Do you remember?
I think it's Apple.
Apple. What was your other favorites?
What?
What was other favorites? What's your other favorites?
Yeah, we
What? Do you have any other favorites?
I bought 90 Apple.
What? Google? Google was their favorites.
I bought 90 Apple stocks, bro.
Which one did you lose the most money?
Yeah. Do you remember which one you lost on? What was the one you remember? Tesla.
Yeah.
You guys are much more forthcoming than most of these groups. We've been trying to get information on these kids for the last 10 years.
Yeah, they won't give us any
share. So you guys,
We're sharing some
kudos,
good
thank
stock
you.
tips.
Thank you all very much.
Congratulations, good job, guys.
Our GT recognitions do not stop there. Other GT recognitions include Miss Laurel Pickle and George Elementary students being selected to present their project at the Arkansans for Gifted and Talented Education Conference. This is a competitive statewide honor. Miss Jennifer Bogart from Tyson Elementary was selected as a 25-26 Smart Mayor VFW National Citizenship Education Teacher Award recipient. Tyson Elementary was named Global Crayola Creativity Ambassador under the supervision of Miss Jennifer Bogart. I believe that was one of 31 schools worldwide. Our own Dr. Stacey Plumley, who's in the audience this evening, will be serving as the Arkansas Association for Gifted Education Administrators President-elect for the 26-27 school year. Aubrey Harris and Avery Rasnick from Tyson Elementary received the Agate Youth Challenger Award for Extraordinary Innovation and Service. Miss Jamie Cavett from T.G. Smith Elementary is implementing a school-wide STEAM enrichment program serving all students through a grant. Miss Bethany Sebahar from Walker Elementary has received over $10,000 worth of multiple grants to provide students with enriched learning experiences and expand their community partnerships. Miss Bethany Sebahar, Miss Jo Huggins, Miss Shelby Rains, Miss Jennifer Bogart, Miss Leanne Johnson, and Miss Jennifer Totten are leading grants from Explore Learning to provide extension opportunities with gizmos and Science for Us. Miss Totten from Young Elementary received multiple grants to provide materials and supplies for entrepreneur student projects. And 7 third-grade students, 6 fourth-grade students, and 4 fifth-grade students from Young Elementary received honorable mentions in the National Noetic Math Competition, and I do believe this was their first year to participate. So let's give our GT program a round of applause. I do want to share some third-grade data with you. If you look up on your screen, I have a graph. This graph shows the relationship between second grade ELA summative scores and third grade fall and interim assessment scores. If you look underneath my happy face, you will see that all of the colored dots that are on this graph represent how students performed on the second grade summative assessment. So level 1 is red, level 2 is green, level 3 is turquoise, and level 4 is that fuchsia purpley color. Next, if you look at the bottom of the graph, or on the x-axis next to my smiley face, you will see this represents fall interim scores. These are third grade fall interim scores. And if you look underneath my smiley faces, you will see level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. These represent how our students performed on the fall interim assessment. On the y-axis of this graph, you will see next to my happy face that this represents how our third grade students performed on winter interim skilled scores. And this is Hunt Elementary that we're looking at. And then next to my happy faces, you'll see level 1 going from bottom up to level 2, level 3, level 4. This is how our students were performing on the winter interim assessment. So let me give you an example. If you look at the happy face, directly underneath it is a red dot, and that red dot represents a second grade student at the end of the year who was a level 1. If you look down at the fall interim skilled score directly below it, you'll see level 1. So in the fall interim, this student, third grade student, scored a level 1. When this student took the assessment again this winter, this student scored a level 2, because you can see that it fell in the level 2 category on the winter interim score. So that means the student is showing significant growth. And what makes this really exciting, the winter interim assessment is the full Atlas blueprint, which means all of the standards are assessed, although they've not been taught. So if this student continues to make the progress that he or she has made up to this point, it's a very likely probability that they will be a level 3 for the end of the year. Another example, this green dot that's underneath the happy face at the top of the graph. This student was a level 2 at the end of second grade. In the fall interim, this student scored a level 3. Winter interim scored a level 4. So we're seeing a lot of growth with our students. The blue line that is in the middle of all the data points is called the line of best fit, and basically what that means, it runs through data points that show the overall trend of data. So what you want to see is that line trending upward. We do not want to see a line trending downward. And I'm happy to report when you look at all of our elementary schools, the line of best fit is trending upward. So how do we use this data? Each of these dots represent a student, and the principals on Thursday will be getting these graphs. And we have names associated with each of these dots, and so they can look at students to see where our outliers are. They can look at students to see who are not growing. We can look at the students who are showing growth. So there's really a lot of information that can be gained from these plots. Finally, I wanted to show you this is our district data, and I didn't start with this because it was a little bit overwhelming. But again, just our line of best fit shows an upward trajectory, so we're making a lot of progress with our third grade students. Do you have any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Evening, board. I don't get lots of opportunities to come up and talk to you, but I am excited about what we get to talk about tonight. Unfortunately, I have no smiley faces, so I'll do my best to make it sound happy. How about that? So the project we've been working on, AT&T has been rapidly increasing rates on legacy copper lines. FCC approved an effort to phase out all of these lines by 2029, so we've been seeing these rates rise, and so we needed to take action to reduce costs for the district. And so some of the price increases we've seen were up to $3,000 a line for some of these, and The ones that haven't hit those tariff rates were as low as $11 a line. But we needed to have something done at least by 2029, but we wanted to try and look for ways we can get that done quicker to reduce cost for the district. Obviously, we don't want to pay $3,300 a line for these, and most of them we've started the transition of getting rid of those anyway, so we're working through that. A lot of these lines are for older, outdated VoIP gateways that we had in place. We've replaced faxing with cloud-based faxing. We're using Fax Plus for that. We've reduced cost for and lines associated with elevators and fire alarms as we've moved those to cellular dialers, since that's now allowable by law. So it allows us to offset a lot of the costs that have been associated with these lines that we've been paying for. So we got a quote from an outside company to determine where all these lines were located. And so basically what they would do is physically send a team in, attach a butt set to each of the lines to determine if it's active, where it is, so that we could identify all those things. So thanks largely to Jeremy White and the support services team, we didn't have to spend that $55,000, and we were able to identify these lines internally. So zero additional cost to what we've been doing to try and identify all these lines. We've identified 90% of those, 100% of the lines that were those high rates we've eliminated that we could. We're working on the rest of them. There's 4 or 5 that are left that we're trying to eliminate. And as I mentioned, the cellular for elevators and fire alarms, and e-faxing for the fax lines. So we're eliminating the need for all of this outdated copper that's run all over our buildings that we've had for a long, long time. And so this is the slide I'm most proud of, that we've saved the district, is that $285,493 annual cost that we've been paying for these lines. So there you go. Any questions? Right.
Thanks, Paul. Right here.
Yes.
So I know that we still have to have phone lines, obviously, into each school, and they're not copper. What do we do? Is it like fiber optic now? What's going on?
That's correct. So all of our lines are transitioning to copper, and we're even looking at a cloud-based VoIP service. I don't want to mention vendors at this point because we're still exploring that, but we're exploring ways that we can eliminate the rest of the costs that we have associated with our lines. But we still pay for service. It's just transitioning to digital now. So fiber and everything else, and all of it's moving forward.
So there's a chance that we're going to have more savings as we go on.
Absolutely. Yep.
Hello, board. Dr. Cleveland. I'll do a construction update with you guys. There's not a whole lot to show, but I do have a few renderings of Westwood. So on Westwood, just to overview where we're at right now, the early dirt package went out to bid this week, at the end of last week. It's due back on March 19th. And we've got a meeting set up tomorrow to meet a bunch of subcontractors and Kenco contractors on site to physically look at the site to help them come back with good competitive bids. Once those bids get back on the 19th, Kenco will spend about a week to a week and a half de-scoping that process, make sure everything was covered in the subcontractors' bids. And then after that process, we'll be able to get a GMP to present to Dr. Cleveland and you guys to move forward with this project. A couple other things we're working with Kenco and ESI. If we are able to move forward, we're going to have to put in some temporary drainage around the original building because the new elevation of the new building is about 4 feet higher than the original building. So we have to protect the the original building while the construction's being done, because that whole site drains to the northwest corner of the property, which is where the new building would be placed. And then I put in a few renderings. So here is a new site plan. It's real similar to the other one. We have removed a little bit of parking that was over what was required by the city. We've removed the clinic off of the front wing. So this would be the view, overall site view of this property. There's a view of the front, which is pretty much exactly like the original, other than the clinic has been removed. And we are planning, if we get to move forward building this, it would be ready if we wanted to add a clinic in the future. It would go right in place just like the original plans called out. The interior is what the cafeteria could look like. I mean, the colors are not correct, but that's a good rendering of what it would look like. That would be the gymnasium on the other side of those roll-up doors. The library media center would be upstairs, and this would be what it would look like, and it would have a multi-purpose room through those glass windows that you see on the rendering, because a lot of times your multi-purpose is linked right into your media center. So we're going to be working on color schemes and everything in the morning at 8 o'clock. We're trying to get our drawings are at 50% drawings right now. We're trying to get them to 80% before the building package goes out to bid. So we'll have accurate numbers. That's pretty much it on Westwood. So another project we've had going is a treehouse pantry, a freezer. We've been working on the city to get some of our parcels of land rezoned from a commercial use to a P1 zone. We got that passed Tuesday night at the City Planning Commission, and it'll go to the City Council meeting on March 31st. And then once we get approval from them, we'll be able to pull permits and actually start construction of that freezer. And it'll be a 20-foot by 20-foot freezer to hold protein for the pantry. So that's been an ongoing project we've been working on. And then over spring break, we'll be on a skeleton crew in the maintenance department over that break. But what we've got scheduled right now, Springdale High School, we're going to be replacing those band bleachers with some covered band bleachers. So we'll be doing the demo on those bleachers, prepping that site for the new system to come in. So one crew will be doing that. I'll have another crew at Westwood. So in November, we removed a lot of their playground that was on the west side of the school. And then we've been working on the overall site package, and we've got that kind of nailed down. So I met with the principal, and we've got a spot on the northeast corner of that property that won't be touched during construction. So we're going to go ahead and reinstall that playground on that northeast corner. And then that way the students, they'll be able to have access to that throughout the whole construction process while they're in the original building. And then even when they get into the new building, it would stay in place. And then I'll have another small crew at Tyson Elementary, just adding some AED cabinets that's recessed into the CMU block walls. And then I'll have a small safety crew. They usually go around anytime we don't have kids in the building, and they'll do safety inspections in all the buildings, and we'll get that completed while all the staff's gone. So, do you guys have any questions on any of the construction or projects?
The freezer that you're building at the pantry, is it going to be it's a separate standalone building, or will it be connected to the existing Quonset hut?
It'll be a separated building, and it's actually going to be at my office where the main warehouse is.
Oh.
It'll be a standalone there. There's some zoning issues where the pantry is now. That's a different zone. That's a downtown Springdale zone. It's a lot more restrictive. So we come up with the idea of moving it over to the main warehouse. That's where Mr. Donnell stores all of his box trucks and his vans. And that way, we have warehouse staff there all day, so they can take delivery of the protein, they can inventory it, put it in the separate treehouse pantry freezer, and then when Mr. Donnell needs it, we'll pull whatever he needs and we'll take it to the pantry or wherever that giveaway's at from my office. So, all right. All right, thanks.
Good evening, school board members and Dr. Cleveland. My name is Callie Day, and I serve as the SEA Springdale Education Association Vice President, as well as a teacher here in Springdale. Miss Hannah has conferences, so I'm stepping in for her this evening. Last weekend, Miss Hannah, Miss Demetria Watts, and myself were able to participate in our semi-annual committees day down in Little Rock, and we continue to collaborate with other educators from around the state to advocate for the needs of public schools around Arkansas so that every child in Arkansas has access to a quality, equitable, and free public education. We are also part of the statewide nonpartisan team collecting signatures for 2 ballot initiatives. The Arkansas Established Educational Standards for School Receiving Public Funding Initiative, long name, pretty simple concept, just requiring that identical academic and accreditation standards for all schools receiving state or local funding, including private schools. So basically they're held to the same standards that our public schools are if they are receiving funding. And then the second one is the Constitutional Amendment and Ballot Initiative Reform Amendment, making ballot initiatives a constitutional right Arkansas voters, both now and in the future, would have to preserve access to that direct democracy. So those are the 2 that we are part of. Again, they're nonpartisan, just seeking to benefit Springdale voters in our schools. We continue to seek guidance and clarity about educator rights and responsibilities in an ever-changing social, political, and digital landscape here in Springdale. We would greatly appreciate if the board and district leadership would prioritize providing timely, detailed training and transparent policies and expectations for district employees on these issues so that no one employed here in Springdale is left guessing and hoping that they're doing the right thing just due to ambiguity. Finally, Springdale Education Association is very excited and very proud to celebrate numerous members who've been selected as Teacher of the Year at their respective schools. Ms. Valerie Hanna herself at Elmdale Elementary, Ms. Mariah Santiago at Knapp, Mr. Jesus Alberon at Sonora Elementary, and Ms. Kelsey King at Springdale High School. Not all schools have announced their Teachers of the Year yet, but we would not be surprised at all to see even more member names being announced. Thank you. You guys have any questions for me? Okay, thank you.
This time we will have our patron comments. Looks like we have 2 patrons that have signed up to speak. Before I call the first patron, I'd like to read our rules for patron comments. By signing in and speaking before the board, you agree that no item will be discussed that would operate to prejudice the board concerning a student or personnel matter that could come before the board for disciplinary or employment considerations, or that is in conflict with other district policy or law. Please do not use any student or personnel names. You understand the board will not respond during the meeting. Failure to abide by this agreement will forfeit your right to speak before the board. You will have 3 minutes to speak. When your time is up, we just ask that you would have a seat. So first up, we have Mr. Cano. Is that right? Sorry if I butchered that.
Good afternoon. My name is Rogelio Cano. I work at George Junior High School as a special education instructional assistant, and I just want to talk about how I love my job. My job is not it doesn't feel like labor. It doesn't feel like a job. I never feel stressed about my task or my expectations. The special education teacher over there that I work under is amazing, level-headed, accomplished, and very educated for our adolescent students in special education, and it's been an honor to work under their guidance and influence and their order. However, it's evident that there are not enough instructional assistants applying or being retained in our school district within special education. It poses a major problem that affects the quality, delivery, and efficiency of productivity in special education. According to the National Center for Education Statistics, 15% of the entire country, 330 million people, have experienced the special education system in some way, shape, or form. Statewide, just in Arkansas, it's 13 to 16% of students K through 12 who experience special education. Over the past 20 years, special education has increased in the United States for over 14%. And 2024 alone, nationwide enrollment has increased by 4%. According to the CDC, last year they released a report saying that children under age 9 or diagnosed with autism had tripled from 1 to 3.2% of the whole country, with higher numbers among marginalized minorities. So my concern here is that they're not paid enough, and so my proposal would be the most competitive pay I find for special education in Northwest Arkansas would be in Bentonville, Fayetteville, Farmington over there. But yet Springdale School District has the highest population of students K through 12. And we're the second largest school district. And we have the most students there, and therefore we have the most enrolled in special education, also the most in like English second language programs that require Spanish and martially speakers, and especially in elementary schools. In Fayetteville, Farmington, it would be starting at $20 an hour. That would be $27,000 per year. In a SPED, I would propose that we would pay them $5 more. That'd be $30,000 a year. It'd be $2,500 a month, accounting for the fact that we don't get paid for breaks in just over the course of 178 days. I think this competitive pay would attract more and retain more, and we would also run this self-contained classroom a lot more efficiently. There was a study that said that within a classroom that had integrated students, they created a strong dominance of the instructional assistant to these slow learner students. The slow learner student depended on the instructional assistant when they were not absent from class. When they were absent from class, the instructional assistant, the slow learner student, did not initiate or complete the task, intended not to conduct any activity at all until it was explained in extreme detail by extensive efforts by the general teacher. So and also just with the help of the instructional assistants, we can the special education teacher would not be able to do their jobs without their assistance, especially in elementary schools where physical labor is a huge part of it, and there's some violence that happens, like with physical injuries, and it can be part of the job, and corporate labor is just required for it. And so also, it's important to note that the school district is growing, and it's going to keep growing up to, by 2040, it's going to be bigger than the population of San Francisco. And 42% of Washington County's residents' paychecks are spent on housing and transportation, which is more than New York City, which they spend 36%, and is identical to Austin, Texas, which is 42%. Thank you so much.
That was a great job.
That was good. That's the best use of 3 minutes I've ever seen.
All right, next up we have Miss Usry.
I'm here tonight to talk about how my daughter Abigail was failed by this district. I'm also here to talk about how teachers and students were failed by the same administrative decisions. On February 27, 2025, my daughter started her day as a junior at Springdale High. By the end of the day, she was in the operating room at Arkansas Children's Northwest with a devastating facial injury. A student had already been identified as a danger to themselves and others, had been sent for a behavioral risk assessment just days earlier. When that student returned to school, a so-called safety plan was put in place. That plan consisted of one thing: an admin checking the student's backpack once in the morning. That was it. Teachers were never informed that a safety plan even existed. That afternoon around 2:30, my daughter was in art class. Without any argument or altercation, a student approached her holding a straight razor attached to a handle and slashed my daughter from her ear to her chin. My daughter didn't know what happened at first. She told the teacher she'd been slapped. I want to commend the teacher in that classroom. She reacted quickly, got my daughter out of the room, and removed the weapon from the student. The trauma the teacher and the students in that classroom experienced should have never happened. At 2:45, I received a call from my daughter's phone. A school employee calmly told me my daughter had a cut on her face and they couldn't stop the bleeding. I was asked if I wanted an ambulance called or if I wanted to come pick her up myself. I gave permission for an ambulance immediately. Due to the severity of the injury, I'm still confused by this. However, paying the bill, I think I understand. When I arrived at Children's, police officers were waiting for me, waiting on the ambulance. I will never forget what I saw when the ambulance doors opened. My daughter was covered in blood and terrified. The trauma team later told us they were extremely concerned that over an hour had passed between the attack and her arrival at the ER. Abby had a 12-centimeter laceration across her face. It went through the muscle to the bone and severed her main branch of her facial nerve. She required emergency surgery and received over 30 external stitches. She underwent months of physical therapy and continues counseling today. She will never regain full movement on the left side of her face. She never returned to the halls of Springdale High. She's had to finish out her senior year in another district because the trauma was too great. Then, as part of the investigation, a photo of my daughter's injury was taken in the ER and shared between the school resource officers and admin. That photo was later leaked to social media and circulated among students. My daughter's most traumatic moments now on phones across multiple schools. My daughter was failed by the district. Teachers were not informed of safety risks. Medical response was delayed. Parents were misinformed, and her privacy was violated. And now, a year later, another student involved in the planning of the attack has been allowed back in the district. The student who bragged that she planned it and later laughed at her friends that the attack occurred. I'm here tonight for one reason. Please do better. Your students and your staff deserve a system that protects them. My daughter deserved that too.
Thank you. No, it's not easy to share. Thank you. Okay. So we will move to the consent agenda. Do you have any questions on that? Entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second. A motion by Mr. Bell and a second by Mr. Hutchinson to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Brings us to our action items. Dr. Cleveland.
Okay, we have our calendar.
Good evening, Board. I'm here to introduce to you Ms. Cassie Kautzer. Cassie is our certified PPC president. Before she begins and talks to you about our academic calendar option, I do just want to commend the work that she does. You all see the results of the calendar committee, which is a small part of the PPC, but our PPC meets monthly, almost monthly. We take a couple of breaks. Dr. Smith and I are their invited guests and happy to attend those meetings, but Ms. Kautzer does an excellent job of facilitating those and is really working to equip that group to serve their staff better at the building level. And so it is a volunteer or sometimes voluntold position, and she does it graciously and gracefully. So I'll introduce Ms. Kautzer, and she'll talk to you about the calendar.
Thank you, Ms. Clay. All right, so I was back with y'all last month and just shared our original calendar A and B that had gone out to staff for a vote. And I just shared back the breakdowns the breakdown in the slides again. The original breakdown, the calendars were so similar. It really was, the big differences were starting on Monday, starting our Tuesday, and that made us end the semester or the school year one day later. And so the results of that had been that, again, almost 60% of staff preferred calendar A. This is probably the closest vote that I can remember in a number of years. But again, it was just a one-day difference. From teacher feedback wanting some wanting a shorter first week for kids, just with as tired as our students are on the first week back. But with our CTMs on Wednesdays, creating that shorter day for students, we don't ever want to start on a Wednesday because that just, especially for elementary, I can't even imagine the chaos trying to get students out earlier. And so Tuesday was what we were able to go with because we had tried a Thursday last year and that didn't pass. So we still went with that calendar A was the winner. However, with some feedback from y'all or some questions last time. We had questions about CAP conferences and a move that had moved conferences up earlier in the second semester. And so after I left the meeting last time, we sought some feedback with Ms. Tischer's help. I got some of our secondary reps who hadn't previously attended calendar committee meetings to commit to another meeting. And Ms. Tischer helped gather some more feedback from some of our secondary counselors and administrators. And the big ask from them was that they wanted to keep spring conferences and CAP conferences the week right before spring break, allowing their counselors enough time to update all the hundreds of changes that I think happen annually to course codes and things, and enough time to coordinate with the junior highs and high schools, and just enough time to make sure that all their teachers and staff are prepared for their, now I'm going to forget the name of it, but for their specific duties and getting kids scheduled for the proper courses for the following year. And so the new calendar committee are expanded with our original committee members, 2 admin members, and our secondary 100% agreed with and voted in favor of doing what our secondary schools are in need of. So that's the highlighted change that we talked about at the meeting on the screen in front of you. Just the only change from calendar A that we then called draft A1 to draft A2 was to move the secondary conference week. After coordinating with Ms. Clay, because we didn't change any dates that would affect students, and it was just a conference move, it was determined we did not need to send out a second vote back to the whole district. And so I'm here tonight to ask if you've got any questions, and then to seek for approval to move forward with draft A2 as our official calendar for next school year.
Board, do you have any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve calendar A2 for the 26-27 school year. Second.
A motion by Mrs. Creek and a second by Mrs. Cook to approve the calendar draft A2 for the 26-27 school year. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you all so much.
Thanks for all your work.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Cleveland. I would like to present to y'all Miss Sarah Gentry. She's the CPA principal with HCJ CPAs and Advisors, and she is our external auditor, and she's going to present our report.
Thank you, Board, Dr. Cleveland, Stacy, for the introduction. I think this might be the earliest I've been on.
Yeah.
So I'm used to staying here later.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. As she mentioned, my name is Sarah Gentry. I'm a principal with HCJ. We do your audit each year. And I'd like to start out by saying thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you all again this year. We appreciate all the hard work that you put in. We'd like to give a special shout out to Stacy and her team. We have a lot of requests. You guys are subject to multiple levels of audit. There's not just the financial statement audit. It's performed under governmental auditing standards and the uniform guidance because you guys expend so much in federal awards. And that's a whole nother level. So there's multiple layers there, and we make a ton of requests. And your team always responds with ease and grace. So we appreciate that for sure. We'll walk through the audit. There's a paper copy in front of you. I know a lot of people like paper copies, so I bring them. So you'll notice that we issued an unmodified or clean opinion on those financial statements under the regulatory basis of accounting, which is the basis of accounting that the state of Arkansas prescribes and requires school districts to report under. So you'll also notice, because it's under the regulatory basis, it's an adverse opinion under GAAP, but that's because you don't report under GAAP. You report under that regulatory basis as required by the state. We'll look at the balance sheet first, and we'll kind of walk through some of the major changes from prior year, kind of the presentation of it.
The balance sheet is on page 4. The general fund, you'll notice that it's in a fund basis of accounting, so you'll see different columns for each fund, which is its own little set of books. Each one of those funds balance and is its own little set of books. The general fund consists of your operating funds of the school district and your restricted state funds. The special revenue funds consist of your federal programs and your food service. The other governmental funds are your capital projects and your debt service, and then the fiduciary funds consist of your student groups. They're held in merely a agency capacity, so that's why your assets equal your liabilities and fund balance. So there's then you'll notice in that fund balance section at the very bottom, your general fund ended the year with $37.6 million in fund balance. Approximately 7.5 of that is restricted for future state program use. The remaining 30.1 million is unassigned for future general fund use. Your special revenues ended the year with 19 million. It's restricted for future federal program use. And then your other governmental funds, all of the 43 million that it ended the year with is assigned for future capital projects. So the school districts is set aside for future capital projects over the years, 43 million. The next statement on page 5 is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. It's similar to an income statement for a for-profit entity. Again, in column format, your general funds experienced a net increase in fund balance of 5 million. So your property tax revenues were up from prior year of about 11.6 million. That's attributable mostly to your increase in your property tax assessments in the year. And then your total expenditures were $228 million, which was approximately $11 million increase from the prior year. A lot of that has to do with your salaries makeup, so your salary scales bumped up, you had a COLA increase. Some of the salaries that were being funded under the ESSER program had to be shifted to your general fund in the current year as the ESSER funds ran out. The district also had a few larger supplies, software, and bus purchases in the current year, so your capital outlays were up in the current year, your expenses related to that. The general fund also was able to transfer 19 million over to the capital projects and debt service to set about 19 million more aside for future capital projects of the district. You'll notice the special revenue fund had a net decrease in fund balance of about 2 million. Most of those federal programs are now set up to be cost reimbursement, but there are some carryover funds. In the current year, you had some capital outlays to replace some equipment in the food services programs this year. And then other governmental funds had a net decrease in fund balance of 416,000, so it was about break even in the current year. Your revenues were 27 million, $12.7 million increase from the prior year, which had mostly to do with your facilities partnerships monies going up this year related to some renovations that were performed across the district this year. Total expenditures were 51 million in the current year. That was a decrease from prior year of about 55 million, which sounds like a lot. But last year, if you'll remember, you had a ton of hail damage repairs that were processed through last year, along with a lot of CIP that rounded out last year. The district also made your scheduled bond payments of 6 million in principal last year and 7 million in interest. The next statement, starting on page 6, is budget to actual. This is a requirement in the regulatory basis of accounting for the general fund and the special revenue fund to provide a statement that compares what the district provided to the state for budget at the beginning of the year as compared to how it ended the year in actual. So you'll notice property tax revenues were higher than expected by about 5.6 million. It can fluctuate from budget, but the district does conservatively estimate the amount of property tax revenues at the beginning of each year. And the area saw yet another increase in population growth, which increases your property tax revenues. Your state revenues were higher than expected by approximately 4.6 million, and the district received several miscellaneous grants that were unknown or unexpected at the beginning of the year when the budget has to be submitted to the state. And so the district only budgeted for those known grants in that area. And then other revenue was higher than expected by about 1.2 million. So the district received some funding that they were not aware of at the beginning of the year, again, related to some teacher equalization grants, some additional URT funding, some growth funding, and so forth. So some unexpected increases in some funding there. Expenses had a net favorable variance of about 6.4 million. And a significant portion of that related to salaries being lower than budgeted. The district had conservatively budgeted some salaries based on some inflationary numbers that get ran through an e-finance budgetary system. So they had conservatively budgeted and were able to reduce those salaries from budget. And then capital outlays were higher than anticipated. As with the net favorable variance on several of the other areas, they put a little bit more into some of the technology upgrades that needed to happen, so they did that. And then the district was able to put $6 million more than expected over in transfers to the capital projects. As we mentioned earlier, they actually had budgeted at $6 million less than what they thought they could transfer over and transferred over more. The special revenue funds, federal revenues were higher than budget by about $3 million, and that's mostly due to the phone-free school grant, which was unexpected or new in the current year, and it was unknown at the time of budgeting. So that increased that. And then the district also had a net favorable variance in their expenses, their federal expenses of about $11.8 million by watching several of the expenses that they had, so they had lower than anticipated cost. And then they had also budgeted to expend $6 million in some furniture purchases that they postponed in the current year. Next, starting on page 7 are the notes to the financial statements. They've remained consistent with prior year's presentation, so we're not going to go through each one of those notes. I do like to point out one, note 4 on page 11 is titled commitments. And because the regulatory basis is presented the way they do, debt doesn't show up on the financial statements, and neither does fixed assets. As you notice, you won't see any of that on your financial statements, and that's specific to the regulatory basis of accounting. So this footnote clearly outlines the future commitments of the district. And so at year end, the district had 8 construction projects in process that they had already entered into construction contracts or commitments to the tune of $34.7 million as of 6/30/25. And then it also gives you a detailed breakout of the bonds that the districts hold and its future debt payments over the next several years. So you can see that footnote there as well. The remaining reports and schedules are a ton of compliance reports that are specific to various federal and state government agencies that require these reports, whether it's under the single audit or whether it's for the state of Arkansas, DHS, ADE, all the various ones. So we won't go through each one of those. You'll notice on page 23 and 24 is your schedule of expenditures of federal awards. That's what subjects you to the single audit requirements under the federal government. The district, you can see, expended almost $39 million in federal funds in the current year. Because of that, there was 4 programs that were required to be tested as what's called major programs in our world. So we do a detailed, in-depth dive into those to make sure that the district has proper internal controls and that we don't find any compliance requirements that were not met with regards to the ones that we're supposed to be testing. There was 4 programs: Special Education Cluster, CCDF, Cluster 21st Century Grant, and the TANF program. All 4 of those had to be tested. It's not typical. Most of the time when you see a single audit, a lot of times there's only 1 or 2 major programs. You guys this year had 4 major programs, which is a lot to start out with. But not just to say that, but based on the testing we perform, so we pull a huge sample of various expenses, of various eligibility requirements. There's a multitude of compliance requirements that we go down through, and we did not, based on our sample selected, find any reportable findings, which I don't know if I can express to you how difficult that is to do, because findings are pretty common in the single audit world, and not necessarily a bad thing. It's just and it's better for us to find them than somebody else, honestly. But for you guys to have 4 programs and us, based on our sample selection, to not have a finding come out of 4 programs is something to be commended for sure. So I wanted to be sure to point that out. Likewise, we're required to test certain state statutes in compliance with those. That's the last report in your packet there, in your report. We did not find any non-compliance with any state statutes that we're required to test from an audit perspective. So that's the audit in a nutshell. If you guys have any questions on that, I'm open.
Our accountant says no questions.
No questions. Also, I'm also happy to report, if we were to have had disagreements with management over the application of accounting policies, principles, if we felt like we weren't getting information in a timely fashion, or if we felt like we were not being, if someone was not being forthcoming with the information that we were requesting, we, from an audit perspective, are required under auditing standards to notify those charged with governance, which is you all. We are happy to report we don't have any of those matters to report to you guys. So that's the conclusion. Thank you. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you, we appreciate you as well.
Good job.
I cannot take credit for it. My whole team works hard, and I also have to say that all of the other staff members in the district, principals, all different levels of directors are so good about providing proper documentation and following up with us timely when we ask questions. So it is truly a group effort by the entire district, and so I was really happy of the outcome. So that's correct.
I make a motion that we approve the June 30th, 2025 audit report.
I'll second that.
A motion by Mrs. Creek and a second by Mr. Bell to approve the 2025 audit report. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. In your packet was the February financial summary. Just wanted to point out just a few things. February historically is our lowest collection month for current taxes. As y'all are aware, your new bills are coming out in the mail. You'll probably get those soon. And so it's just kind of a lull in between the years. So you'll see that that's quite low. Even with that, we're about $5 million ahead in current tax collections than where we were this same time last year. Of course, that's due to increased assessments. Also wanted to note on the revenues that we did get our national board stipends came through. Those have already been paid out. And so that is simply a flow through. You'll see on the financial statement that we had budgeted for $932. That was based on the previous year, and the actual amount that was received from the state that was passed through to those teachers that were eligible for that was a little over $840,000. So that has all been paid out. As far as expenditures, we are almost identical to where we were same time last year as far as a percentage of our expenditures to the total. So we are still moving toward year end and trying to keep everything steady. So are there any questions on the financial statements for the month of February?
Is the money that's coming in on the national board stuff, is it still going to come year after year, or is there a sunset?
I think there is a sunset on that. I believe it maybe has 2 more years left. I think that's correct. And so they send us a list that we approve. And the only thing we're doing on that list to approve is just ensuring that that teacher that's on the list is still an employee of Springdale School District. And then whatever they send us for that teacher, that's exactly what we pay out. And the state reimburses us the amount of the stipend as well as the associated benefits.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the February financials.
Second.
A motion by Mrs. Cook and a second by Mr. Hutchinson to approve the February 2026 financials. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. The next item on my agenda is to present a related party transaction with Gladden Photography LLC. It is co-owned by Curtis and Jennifer Gladden. Mr. Gladden is an administrator by definition for our school district. However, he does not have district-wide purchasing authority. If this is approved by the board, then I will need to submit it to DESE for approval because he's an administrator by definition.
I'll make a motion to approve that, even though she's a competitor, she does great work. So, I will make a motion to approve the related party transaction for Ms. Gladden.
A motion by Mr. Hutchinson and a second by Mrs. Cook to approve the related party transaction with Gladden Photography. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stacy.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, Al. All right, so next on your agenda is what we have listed as consider Jones Regional Prep Academy for Personal Responsibility and Education Preparation. So I'm going to start off by talking about or telling a story. So a few years ago, our district, among other districts and really across the nation, started experiencing students at a younger and younger age having some pretty extreme behaviors. We've talked about this mental health crisis, lots of different things. Even to the point where a couple of years ago, we had students coming to us, and I think we counted, Ms. Fink, over 80 students that were age 5 that were still breastfeeding in diapers and nonverbal. So a lot of really, really difficult things happening, and people could relate it to situations with COVID, poverty, all kinds of things. So now, fast forward a little bit, you've got other things that public schools are dealing with, especially in Arkansas. You have rapid rise of cost of goods, inflation, and you have cost of homes that are really going up, and cost of rents. Rents are going up anywhere between 16 and 22%. So there is a situation in our community and in others where people are struggling to live, struggling to pay for gas, struggling to buy goods, and struggling to live in a rent situation or to pay their mortgage. So people have asked, why is Springdale having an enrollment decline? Well, most of Arkansas is having an enrollment decline in public schools. A lot of other states are having enrollment decline. You look at public schools across the country, there's an enrollment decline. Or so you could say, well, our education freedom account's responsible for that. Well, I'm sure there is a correlation, but there's a bigger correlation with trying to survive, trying to live. So people are moving to what they call Tier 2 areas. I run a report every day of what our student population is, where it's been historically versus today versus the same date last year, and over time. So as of this year, our enrollment decline is roughly 700, but our highest peak prior to COVID were around 1,200. But that is a percentage that's relative to other school districts' percentage. So why am I talking about all of this in comparison to Jones? So here's the story. Jeremy White and I, along with you, many years ago, 6 years ago, applied for replacement of Elmdale Elementary, Jones Elementary, and Westwood. And our goal was to try to rebuild those buildings in the same locations because they met a certain index, a facility cost index, FCI. If they're so old and their condition is in a particular spot, then the state will participate with you to rebuild those schools. Those met that criteria. But the school district would have to come up with their portion of the money. Okay? And as these behaviors in students begin to decrease or increase, we felt, all of us felt like maybe we need a place for our students and potentially other students together, pool resources, and potentially have a school. And so in talking to other superintendents and educators in the region, Springdale is a central location. Maybe Springdale could do this. And so Chairman White and I traveled to Little Rock, and we visited with a gentleman named Tim Kane and said, okay, if we hold one of our schools out, could we build Westwood and potentially Jones larger in their current locations because their footprint, the location of the property is much bigger, and maybe take Elmdale and make that a some sort of behavior school, make it a regional school. Even had a company who does this kind of thing, a charter from another state, come in, walk the school. This was 2 years ago. Well, as our enrollment continued to decline, and of course Tim Kane said yes, by the way, we can do that. We start down the path of rebuilding Westwood. Next is going to be Jones, right? We make these plans and we have board meetings and we work sessions and all the things are moving. Feel pretty good about it. Our financial shape is good. Talking to other superintendents, they're still in good shape. We're talking to this group called Chancellite, and we think we're going pretty well. Then I go to a meeting with the mayor and some others, and the Army National Guard is there, and they're sharing that the Blackhawks, which is a helicopter group, the Army National Guard will be moving to Northwest Arkansas. And they're going to select between one of the major cities. And Springdale's in the running. So we wait. And the idea of where they might locate would be at the airport. Well, we talk about that, and having a lot of helicopters, which could be literally right next door to Jones, in a building next to, or that's owned by the city, was a little concerning, right? About maybe noise and maybe not just noise, but the activity that's happening. And I don't know if you saw in the news that the city's going to be opening Thompson all the way through. So there's going to be kind of a hub through there pretty quickly. Talking to the powers that be, maybe building a brand new building on that property even closer, because we had to build it on the open space, closer to the hangars, closer to the runway. Maybe that's not the best idea. Y'all remember all this? So I go back to Tim Kane and the facilities division and ask the question, do we have to build Jones on the same property, or can we build it in an alternative location? And so as we're talking through this, maybe another piece of property is better. And the question was answered, yeah, I think we can do that. And so we selected the potential location at Don Tyson. We have 40 acres over there. That sounds pretty good. So we start down that road. Enrollment is continuing to teeter a little bit, not so bad at the time. And then this year, EFAs are in full force. We have some fear in the community and across the nation. A lot of things are happening, and puts us in a position that we really need to think of our future. Do we rebuild Jones at all? And knowing our community, knowing you, do we build a school when we don't have any kids for the school, number one? Number two, is that a physically responsible thing to do when you don't have money? And the answer is no. Physically with an F, physical decision. So that pulls Jones off of the table. And so returning an $11.5 or so million back to the state is the appropriate thing to do, and then to reapply for the next round makes sense. All while we're thinking about Jones, we find out that the property itself, and looking at the deed, there is what we call a reverter clause. So the deed says this: if the Jones property is not used as a school, then it reverts back to the original owner. Anyone know who the original owner is? It's the city. So way back in history, years and years ago, the property where the school is and that whole area where the housing authority has, plus the airport, that was owned by the federal government. It was used as a work camp. That's where a lot of people lived back in the 30s, 20s, 40s. And the federal government, when that program was over, sold it to the city at a really reasonable price, but said, you know, that area, there's got to be a school there. And anybody that knows Arkansas history, that's when Arkansas really was told that, look, education in a state is the state's responsibility. So there were one-room schoolhouses everywhere. None of us were alive then, but my grandparents told me they were in a one-room schoolhouse, and it wasn't even required to go to school. You could. And 8th grade was about as far as you could go. But in the end, these small schoolhouses became school districts, and the communities in the state built larger schools. That's how Springdale became Springdale. A lot of these small little communities came together and created a school district. That's how we got the Grange building. That's how we got Fishback. Those were schools, one-room schoolhouses. So, obviously, not using Jones, we couldn't sell the property because we have a partner in it, right? And we really needed to sell the property in order to have the money to build a new school somewhere else. So I'm talking to the board, but do you all get that too? Okay. So that puts the district in quite a quandary. We don't want to ask for a millage increase. Our taxpayers pay enough taxes. You know, I've already talked about how much it costs to live, how much it costs to survive. And it's not appropriate to do that to our folks, and that's the direction that you provided for us. So what do we do to meet the needs of our children, the highest and best use? What do we do to be more efficient? Because we pride ourselves on paying well. I mean, I understand, I listened to the gentleman about our aides, especially in special education. But our efforts are to pay as well as we can. But with a declining enrollment, it's really hard to do. And it's really hard to do with multiple sites. So I hope I've told that story well enough to get us here today. So what is our highest and best use for Jones in trying to be most efficient? And we've talked about opportunities of improvement in our work sessions and facilities, and how do we do this in a really strategic and performance-based way. How do we ensure that if we do grow again, that we still own a facility to where we can open it back up if we need to? What's our future focus mentality? What's our mindset? And what do we do to make sure that our patrons are listened to and supported, and our kids are taken care of in a way that, well, in a way that they're in a new facility or a newer facility? I don't want to say Jones is a bad facility, because it's not bad, but it's older. It's not as new as BER, and certainly not as new as NAP. So our team has worked hard in conjunction with the BER team, leadership, and with the Jones leadership, Ms. Jackson, and her team, to figure out how can we still serve the Jones students and use the facility, what I call highest and best use. So tonight, and it's going to be up for consideration, I'm requesting you to consider a strategic pivot for using Jones Elementary that really is a win-win for our students in our district by repurposing a very historic facility into a regional center for student support. And it solves really two challenges at once that I've shared. First one, providing a high support environment for students needing behavior regulation, an intensive need that traditional classrooms just aren't built to handle today. It would provide some real relief for teachers that are struggling with individual students or maybe even multiple students, to where if a student's being dysregulated in a room, the other children don't have to leave the room. You know, you've heard some of those stories. Second, by moving Jones students into more modern facilities like BER and NAP, excuse me, we ensure that they're attending a school that's really not close to Black Hawk operations, not even closer to those kinds of things, even though we're really proud the Black Hawks are coming. I think it's a great thing. But it moves to protect that all of our vital district assets are protected. It saves potentially millions of dollars that we can repurpose and put back into our schools, into our staff members' hands, so they're able to live in our community. And it restores a learning environment for every teacher and every student in our district. So that's really the thought process of where we are. It's not a willy-nilly, let's just do this and see what happens. It has been a very strategic, thoughtful process, and it does impact people. It's easy to make decisions if you're looking at a piece of paper and you just move dots around. But each dot is representative of an individual, and that individual has feelings, and typically those are our children and our staff members. And it's important to know that those people have meaning to each of us. It's not lost on me. It's not lost on our team. It's not lost on Ms. Jackson and her staff. I went over and spent quite a bit of time with her and her staff, and they're really quite phenomenal people. Our Dr. Smith went over and spent some time with the BER staff, and it's not easy there to accept new people in and know you're going to get more kids. The kids are the easy thing to accept. I mean, everyone loves kids, right? And then, of course, NAP said, hey, we get more kids, that's great. You know, no problem at all. Ms. Fink went over there. But anytime that you do something different with a school, like we did the pre-K school, used to be called Lee, I learned a lot of lessons there. And starbursting people is not a good lesson to learn. I mean, that wasn't good. So trying to keep as many people together as we can is a good thing. And but we can't put all the students from Jones into either of the schools. It would make them too big. And so creating the zone, and of course we'll do this with parents if you allow us to do this. We'll begin the process. But we need to be strategic in how we break that zone, not to overfill either school, but to strategically do that to where a good number, if not most, of the teachers from Jones can travel and go to BER. There will be some teachers who won't want to. There may be some that want to go to another school, work in another school closer to where they live. I mean, there are a whole lot of things that may happen, but we want to make sure that people get an option and are listened to, and not have something done to them, but done with them. It's really easy for people to think, or for somebody to throw a stone or cast a dispersion on what we're doing, or maybe think we're being ugly or mean. That's not it at all. The goal is to try to make sure our district stays solvent financially and to meet these strategic needs. The needs of the children come first. All children. And right now, with the rules, the way a lot of public schools have them, and we don't make them. You know, who we listen to the federal government, we listen to state government. They create the rules of our game, if you will, with special ed and everything else. And those rules are difficult to navigate, I'm just going to tell you. And so how we're doing it, we're trying to do it in a way that the students are served, number one, and close behind them, our staff. They're served first. So that being said, I'm open to any questions, or certainly we'll listen to anything you have to say. Sorry I was long-winded on that.
You're good. You guys have any questions?
Could we get some comments from Ms. Jackson, like about the feedback?
Certainly, I asked her to be here.
Like from parents and staff, and kind of what thoughts are.
Certainly. I have asked Ms. Jackson if she would accept the role of leader of AR.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Cleveland. Yes, I'll answer any questions. I've spent a lot of time with Dr. Cleveland and his team, and we've gone through a lot of different scenarios and situations. So, yeah, anything.
Just kind of, like, have you put the ideas out in front of parents or staff or anything? Like, what kind of feedback or questions have you got?
So I really followed Dr. Cleveland's lead in this, and so we have only talked to staff. We have not talked to our families yet. I mean, obviously, there's things that have come out online and some things that have come out with the Blackhawks and everything. Our staff, you know, it was really hard at first, but then we've just really tried to stay together and stay positive and just said, you know, like, we're going to have grace in this and we're going to do what we need to do together. Dr. Cleveland came and met with our staff last Wednesday and talked to us, and this staff, and Ms. Fink's been my sounding board, has a lot of longevity at Jones. I mean, they're there to serve the families and students of Jones, and they love deeply. And so we even had a guest in today that was doing a training, and she said, wow, when you walk in here, you feel love. And that's true. And so, you know, we have our cafeteria manager's been there 27 years. We have teachers that have been there 22 years. And so we just, their biggest thing has been we want to stay together. We are a school family. And so I do know that that's one of the things that they've expressed to Dr. Cleveland and talked about. For as much as we can. We know that we respect that I've talked to some of the staff and the admin at Bayari as well, and so we know this is hard for everyone, and we respect that. So I think that they know it. They've had a lot of time to think about it and process it.
It's not easy. It's really hard.
What about transportation? Like, isn't Jones like no buses or?
Yeah, we have one bus. It takes out about 35 to 40 kids typically. We have about 250 walkers, and then the rest are car riders. So our enrollment right now is about 415. So that kind of gives you an idea. So most of our kids would then honestly be bus riders. So that would be a change for our families, but we could help facilitate that and kind of talk to them about what that would look like. And so, yeah, it would be a change.
70 school choice kids in Tacoma?
We do. We have about 70 school choice kids, and then we have several kids from Bayari right now. Several of our special education students are actually from Bayari. Ms. Johnson's been working on a list, so we would take them with us.
Would the plan be to split the 450, you said?
I think it would be to take a little over 100 to Bayari and about 300 to Knapp-ish.
Of course, that could ebb and flow depending on the need.
Yeah.
How many each school will be. Knapp is a much bigger school, so the thought process, right now we have K-8 Connect over there. So we're thinking that in that one wing, that used to be a pre-K, so we're thinking the natural progression would be to take that program and move it to Jones or to another location and relieve some of that pressure that's there. Of course, it would be a good start for the new program. And of course, just a name. The Jones name is so important to the school. And it's a historical name, it's a legacy name. And we certainly didn't want to name it something different, right? And so it's important to think about that. But if this new opportunity becomes a regional center, because I've talked to multiple superintendents in our co-op, and pooling resources makes a lot of sense because we can't just do it on our own. There's a lot of need and all. So if we're able to do that, I think having the Jones name with pooled resources as well, and having our K-8 over there, and having those students who need additional help, because many of you have been through the K-8 system. Kids are dysregulated, and we need some additional help, but having those experts in the school that we all pull those resources for, that seems to make sense in a regional setting, instead of all of us having to try to replicate it and not doing it well. Currently, we are all pooling those resources for a small number of students in Bentonville, and that's very far north, and we only have 4 spots. And although it's a really neat place, it's very expensive. And so instead of trying to replicate that exact same thing, maybe we can do it together for a more reasonable cost, if you will.
Another question?
Sure.
Working on anything like this with us, besides with us, are they looking on doing it on their own? Are they looking at repurposing the school or putting together a program?
Well, the Chance Lot program through the co-op that we've all joined, not every school has joined because it's very expensive. I said, we have 4 spots, but it's on the campus of it, on a campus of it. But they're waiting to see what we do here. And again, I haven't talked to every superintendent, but we're so centrally located that many, I've already said, and they haven't talked to their boards either. So it's not appropriate for me to say, I've talked to them, all of them. But yes, if we are able to do something like this, undoubtedly, other superintendent school districts would. This is a real neat opportunity. And I don't know of other people, other states even, doing something like we're about to attempt, if we can do this. It's pretty cool, pretty neat, pretty good for kids.
So I know you said a while ago that you haven't talked to the parents yet, really. And you indicated that it sounded like about half of your kids are car riders. Do you think this is going to make any undue hardships for any of those car riders? You think most of them will, you know them probably better than anybody. You think they'll still continue to take their kids to Knapp and to Bayari, or do you think that's going to be a problem?
No, I do think they'll get them to school. I think that we'll just have to, it's going to be how we present it and talk to them. And I do think there's going to be some that may want to go with our team to Bayari, and that's something that we'll work with them on. But for our ones that have transportation, they will get them there. We'll just have to work on getting them there on time, new schedules, new routines, but nothing that you can't work on. And then also the same thing with the bus, new routines, new systems that they'll have to put into place, but that's all something that we can help them with and help them transition into.
Ms. Jackson, would you talk about feeder patterns too?
So we talked a lot about making sure that all of our kids do stay in the same feeder pattern, and so our kids transitioned to J.O. Kelly, and so we thought, it would be very important for our kids to make sure that, if they are split, that they would meet back up. So, if they're split between Bayari and between Knapp, then they would all meet back together at J.O. Kelly, and so then that would have that, and then all go through together, George Junior High and Springdale High School, so.
Does Bayari currently go to J.O. Kelly?
They do now. Yeah, that was one of the things that we had talked about. So,
There's just one bus route right now? Did I hear that right?
we have one bus.
So would we add bus routes?
Be able to manage.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Conkin knows.
If a lot of those car riders transition to a bus rider, I'm assuming that
We would definitely offer the opportunity.
accommodate however we needed to.
And we have a few places, honestly, that Jones that have asked for a bus route. They're just a little bit too far. They're right on that line. They're close to Emma, and so we're not able to offer them a bus route. So there's some families that it will be a benefit for because they will have the opportunity to ride a bus.
So what are the next steps in pursuing or exploring this?
Well, if you give us the go-ahead to do this, the next step is we'll begin talking to staff, and then we'll have a parent meeting at Jones. And that's kind of it. And we'll come back with a zone for you to approve. But we'll try to do that with everyone.
So if we move forward with, I'm gonna say exploring this, and somebody brings up some issue we haven't thought of, or, there's something that we haven't thought of I know you've been working on this for years, and I appreciate all your effort. There's still a place to put the brakes on and say, wait, we've got to think about this.
The board can always change its mind. I mean, for example, let's say we're going to do this, and you say, yes, go. If you say we're still exploring, it still has all kinds of questions. But if you say, yes, go forward, we're doing this, and there's some insurmountable negative, you can call you and say, hey, there's an insurmountable negative. Then you can say, okay, stop. But that doesn't stop the financial issues that are ahead of us.
I completely understand that. I just feel pretty strongly like that we need to give the families that are impacted a chance to say something, to kind of see what the solution is and see what the problem is and what we're trying to solve. Because I do see the problem. I am an accountant. I do see the problem. And so I know this is like a really innovative and a really great solution from a financial standpoint. It makes a lot of sense. But our kids are our first priority, and I just want to make sure that we're taking care of them the best we can.
That's why I have the shingles in my left eye, because I'm so stressed and worried about it.
Well, I hope that you and your staff know that it's not an easy decision or something that we as a board or Dr. Cleveland and his team take lightly. And we know it's a huge impact to a whole lot of people. So.
Thank you, that's good to hear.
But it also, to go back to what Dr. Cleveland said, it is 2 years of, trying to make sure we're doing the right thing. And so it's very much a balancing act.
Thanks for standing up.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
for
thank
speaking.
you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
I'm going to ask you to approve us to move forward. And if we, as a full team, find that insurmountable hill, we'll immediately call. Maybe even a special meeting, if that's okay. Because I hear you, I do.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm like Debbie. I think the opportunity for the parents to talk is a big thing, but it does ultimately come down to, yes, kids are number one, but if the finances aren't right, then we can't serve the kids. So like she said, it's an awful balancing act, but I think we need to move forward with this. We gotta do something. We can't just keep thinking about it for the next 2 or 3 years. So it's important that we move forward and try to go in a direction, and hopefully that direction is the right direction. So I'll make a motion to go ahead and proceed and do what you gotta do to start down this path.
Second.
Let's have a motion by Mr. Hutchinson and a second by Mrs. Creek to move forward with the consideration of Jones Regional Prep Academy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. And just to reiterate, Jones Regional Prep Academy, that was just kind of a name. There is no name. That's just something we kind of spooled up to. I'll blame Paul Miller. He's always creative. Imagine the tech guy being creative.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll maintain the Jones now.
Yes, if that's okay with you. I think Jones is
Absolutely.
an excellent thing to do. So I'll bring more. This gives me the ability to go to superintendents and the co-op and have a formal conversation with them of who all would like to join if we can do this, and have Ms. Jackson and the rest of our team to lead the work with the parents.
How many people would you anticipate that we'd be able to serve at Jones if everybody decides to jump on board?
Well, we'd have to look at the number of classrooms, number one, and then to see what that ratio needs to be. It'd be really difficult to speculate because I don't know what the best number would be per classroom for per age. You know, is it a K-5? Is it a K-7? Is it a K-8? So I think the relationship there is important. We've got to get the experts in, like Ms. Davis and Dr. Davis and others.
You also probably need flexibility to have different ratios for different needs.
Yeah, we're all going to be learners in this. You all will be experts by the time this is over.
I'm just hoping that we have more than 4 spots to offer to a district the size of Springdale. I mean, there's got to be more opportunity than that for something like this, in my opinion.
Fort Smith, Mr. Bell asked something earlier, and I didn't answer it really appropriately because they've hired a company called Chancellor. I think I've mentioned that company to you before. And they went ahead and hired them, and they have a couple of classrooms. It's extremely expensive. So,
It just feels like an expensive proposition, and I was asking because consolidation of schools is one thing, but as we take this on, and others take it on, and we get an evaluation of what their expense look like as they moved into something like this, and if we are going to work with the other districts, can we count on that as some of the revenue offsets of our expenses? That's what's going on.
that's why the pooling of resources make it work. I had an offline conversation with a friend of mine who's also a superintendent to say, could we take, if it's just an alternative ed, could you take the amount of the alternative ed money and the Student Foundation aid? Could we make that work? And could we also ask the Department of Human Services, who's helping us with the Chancellor program, could we stack that on top and could we make that work without asking for any additional money? Because we've got to get some relief for staff members in regular ed classrooms that have children that do some significant outbursts. Because at some point, there are parents of kids whose education really is faltering because of other students behaviors, not their own students' behavior. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you all for listening to that.
Anything else? Other comments or questions? With that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you for being here.